Hey guys, welcome to the stream. It's an hour late due to an internet outage, but we shan't dwell on that. And let's get on. And the first thing we're going to do is we are basically looking at the door blockers layout piece, right? And that's because the minimap isn't showing up correctly, as you can see. Now, these two end pieces that you see, basically, I have just created, excuse me, I just had a big sneeze there just before I came on, and we need to remove one of those planes, okay? Now, I created this piece earlier, which you can see, so I added this plane and this plane. So basically one of these planes needs removed. Okay, so what we're going to do is create two custom events. Okay, and we shall say remove A, and we'll duplicate that and say remove B, now I don't know why it's done that. Right, okay, so this one we're going to get this plane and basically say destroy component. Okay, and that's it. We could do this in other ways, but this I think is probably about the easiest and simplest way to do it, right? Rather than try to get all the component names and all of that stuff. So we shall just do it this way. And we shall save that. And it's really strange because my Streamlabs is saying I have 0 viewers, but my concurrent viewers on YouTube is 3. Make that make sense. Anyway, we are one short of 500 subscribers. So if you are watching and you haven't subscribed yet, then now is the perfect chance to let me know you've subscribed, and we should have hit the 500 mark. Right, so in the door end, we are basically now going to grab this and say remove A, and it does not like doing that. Okay, just wait a second, we're going to do something. Remove B, and I wonder, yeah, I thought it would do that. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable and we're going to call it floor, we're going to call it minimap layout, and it's going to be BP layout minimap door block. Okay. And we're going to set it here. Okay. So we're going to cast this to BP layout minimap door block, and then that is going to go in there. Okay. And this is going to go in line with that. This is going to go in line here. Then these two are going to go in here. That'll go there. That'll go there. Then this will go here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to delete that, and then we're going to drop this in here. And then that will go in there. Okay. So this is a child actor component. Now, if I say that, you'll notice it doesn't actually get okay. So we're going to need to do this slightly differently. Right? This is interesting. And by interesting, I mean not interesting. So in this case, we can't actually right, tell you what we'll do. If we set that to an actor, right? And we say set. That's not what we want. And we can't do that. So that's child actor component, right? Yep, so we should be able to do that now. Right now, I'm just wondering if where's can we kind of cast to layout? Right, so it says we can do that. Right, so what we'll do, no worries, legend, you sort out with your mother. And have I got 500 subscribers? I didn't a minute ago. Yeah, I have. Woohoo! 500 subscribers. Yay! Thank you everybody for getting me to 500. It's much appreciated. I'm going to move this along here. Said, I hope your mother can make a full recovery. I'm sure everybody's thoughts in the stream are with your mum. And now we should be able to do this. Nope, it does not like that at all. So it looks to me like I'm going to have to do this with an interface, which is fine. It's just I would actually thought I'd get away with that. right? But obviously we won't. So we're just going to create another interface. What was the other way we could do this? Yeah, the other way we could do this is drag this in and get all the components off it, and then check for a tag. So that's one way we could do it. Or another way we could do it is just to do an interface, right? So we're going to kill this for now. So if we go into here, right, we're in here, so this is a good place to actually do this blueprint. So cancel that. We're doing a blueprint interface, so we'll call it BPI layout. And we'll say remove. Okay, and we shall have call it this might actually expand, but we shall call it piece A to start with, right? And then in our door block we'll go to class and we'll add this interface. Okay. And basically these are going to get turned into one. So that's going to be event remove. Well, we're going to have to compile that first, and then we go event remove piece, and we should really rename this. Remove is just a bit generic, right? Remove's a bit generic for this interface thing, so we're going to rename this. It's actually going to be remove plain. Right. Then if we go back to here, right, we just basically branch off of this. And true and false. Right. And then we go into here. And we say remove piece, and let's go back, save that, right, and we obviously need to add this interface. I think it's the other one, you don't need to do it for the event dispatcher. Right, so in our door end, we basically go to class settings and add BPI layout, save that, then remove It's plain. I said plain. Remove plain message. And that's the same. And we tick that one. Then we basically drag this in. And we go with that. Okay. So, with that in mind, we should be able to test this now. And it's not done it. Okay. Add breakpoint. Add breakpoint. Then go into here and add breakpoint. Right. So we're calling that one. And apparently, apparently it doesn't work. It isn't doing the event. It's not firing this. Right? So we'll disable these. And it's not firing those. Huh. Well, I wonder if I do a self, I wonder if it'll fire this because these are children. I wonder if it's going to fire these on the children. This is an interesting little test here. I've never tried this. Apparently not. Now that is weird. Right, okay. Get components. By interface. BPI layout. Then basically for each right. So we'll do that. Alright, Mr. Spock. You see we reached 500 just a few minutes ago. And we basically duplicate this. And again, that goes in there. That goes there. That goes there. That goes there. Yeah, thank you. It took a long time to come at the end. I've been really close for a while, but I do appreciate y'all subscribing. Right. Let's try that. Now, that's still not fired. Right, let's see. That's not a component. Right, okay, get child. Get all child actors. Right, we're going to have to do this slightly different. And then we'll do a for each. Then has enter does implement interface. Right, so delete that, delete that, delete that, then this is going to be branch. And if it's true, this is going to go to here. And we basically do the exact same thing down here. Yeah, we need this as well. This actually goes to there. That goes to there. We'll tidy this up in a minute. Duplicate that. Then this goes to here. We don't need to include dependents on this, but we'll leave it for now. Then if that's true, we do that. Right, let's try that one. Doesn't like that. And that's because we need to plug that in there. Right, let's try this then. See how this goes. Right, so we've got remove plane. Right. And we actually want to see what this object is. But it has found an object with that interface, right? And there we go, it's done it this time. Okay, well that was fun. Not. But at least we've solved the problem. Right? And we're going to have to stop it for now. And then run it. Right, so. Yay! Now our block is correct at the end there. That's what we wanted. That's all that was for. To take out the right block. Okay. So now we can work on the sound. Okay. And in fact, what we'll do is we'll tidy this up first, right? So what we'll do is we'll get that there. Do you even know what that was about, Mr. Spock? Right, what we'll do is we'll do that, then we'll plonk that there. And we'll do it that way. That looks pretty good. That looks kind of symmetrical and stuff. Right, if you don't know what that was about, right, let me explain. This is a door end, okay? Now, the difference between a door and a door end is quite simple, right? It's got a variable in here called show A, okay? So, it deletes either this component or this component. Okay, now that isn't actually a door end, that's actually the door end. What we want is it the door end? Yeah, it is. Right. There's this show A, right, and it basically shows either the left hand side or the right hand side, right? I'll let you see in the map, right? The easiest way to show you is here, right? If I drop in a door end, right, you will see that one end is open. Okay, and this end's closed, right, signifying the end of a corridor, right, but with a door. Okay, so basically you'd walk up this corridor, blah 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 blah, and then it'd be stuck, right? You'd have to go through this door. Okay, let's just bring this up. Right, now what if the door is on the other side, or this end part needs to be here? Well, I've coded it so that you can just hit this button here and that becomes blocked, right? and this one becomes open. Okay? So you can basically set which side of the door you want it to do. Okay? The problem being that on the minimap, we need to create the same thing. Right? So I had to create this. Right? So these are the ends. And then when you click on the button to show A or show B, right, it basically removes the corresponding one of these for the minimap. Okay? So if it wasn't doing this, this whole thing would be shown, which means there would be the two blocks, which was the earlier issue. Okay? And now that we've done the right thing by firing off the interface, this component either removes this part or this part, depending on basically whether we click the show A on and off, on or off. Right? So it doesn't do it in the construction script or anything, even though I could do that. Right? But basically it switches this off. So I'll show you what I mean by this now in the map of if I didn't write this but a code, what you would actually see is the minimap with a blocker here and the one at the end. But because I've just written that code, it removes the proper minimap block. Okay? And that was basically the complete reason behind this. Okay? Now, the next thing we need to do, well, actually the funny thing is, I've brought in another animation as well for us to play with. So I'm going to explain what I'm going to do with that. Right? We basically have a zombie scream, right? And basically this is going to play when he sees the player, right? Right? Because what I don't want to happen is for the player to get a fright. Well, hopefully they will get a fright, right? Well, if that's what they're playing the game for. But it will give them a chance to basically run away. Okay? So, how long is this actually playing for? So it's playing for 3 seconds, 2.8 seconds. Right, so they've got 2 seconds to basically get the fright and get the hell out of there. Right? So when the player gets perceived, we're going to have to switch this on. Right? But we're going to have to be careful, because if the player then gets out of perception and then the monster perceives them again very quickly, then we're not going to fire this animation, right? So we're going to have to write it in a way where there's a cooldown on the possibility of this animation playing. So that basically the player can't frig the system, right? Because then the player would quickly realise that if they got to a certain distance, then this would automatically play, right? And we can't allow that because we don't allow players to cheat. Okay? But we were doing something with sound last night, and we came to the conclusion, or at least I came to the conclusion because I was pretty much talking to myself, that as far as the audio goes, we created structs, right? And we created what happened in the end, right, was I was going to have a music cue state, right? Because what we want here is the music to change when different things happen within the game, right? So if the player's just wandering around and hasn't been spotted or anything, what we want is just not a set of normal music playing, right? Scary, spooky music, right? But as soon as the player gets perceived, we want this to change, right? Now, what I realised was that we don't want to set this music cue state. What we want to do is separate the music into different data tables, right? Because we just want to go straight into the data table and get a piece of music, right? We don't want to have to check what type of music it is, then set them into an array and then pick from that array. We just want to go straight into the table and grab it, right? Now, we can leave this in, we're just not going to do that within the code, and I'll show you where that caused us. It didn't cause a problem, but it was just making it overly complicated for what it needs to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to rename this and we'll just call this normal cues, right? And then we'll duplicate it right, and we'll call it chase cues. Except we'll rename that and take the one off the end. And what we'll do is we'll just do a switch on whatever mode we're in. And then if we're on chase cues, we go to this data table. If we're on audio cues, we go to this table. And they're all just sound cues anyway, so it's not a big deal. And then we've got one more. Well, actually, we might have a couple more. We might have like gateway cues. So this is the music that's going to play when we're in the level select. And then we might have one more. Which we might actually have a couple more. Now for this one, probably for this one and the one I'm about to do, we could do this as a single. We could call it gateway and end screen, right? But we could have like an end screen where you get your final score or something happens, right? So the normal cues are just going to be these ones minus this one, right? and we'll copy that, and then we'll actually remove that one, and then inward gateway queues, we'll remove that, that, and that. Okay, so at the moment we've just got one gateway queue, which is fine. We're going to remove this, rename this, and we'll take the one off the end. Right, and we can update all of these as we go. So the chase queues are going to be faster. Now let me explain this a bit for those who weren't there last night. There's some of these variables are there just for the possibility that I might use them, right? And some of them aren't. Right, so music state, I don't really need to use that at the moment, but we'll just leave it there. It's not going to hurt anything. We've got obviously the sound cue, we've got a duration, and we're going to fill this in. Then we've got fading in and out, and that's going to be if we need to fade it in or fade it out early or something like that. And then we've got whether it's looping or not, right? Now that doesn't mean we're going to loop it. That means, is it a looping cue, right? So is it set up to loop, right? So obviously if you've got a piece of music that ends different from it starts, then it can't loop, right? So that's what this looping means. It doesn't mean we're going to loop it. It means, does that piece of music loop? Okay? Now, whether or not we use this or not is another question, right? But this duration is going to help because the code we've got at the moment on our pawn controller can only tell when a piece of music has actually stopped. And I'll show you the code for that, right? Or the code we've got and where we were about to start doing some changes, right? So this is it here, okay? Now, what I'm going to do in this instance, right, I don't do anything particularly complicated with the audio. You can do a whole shit ton more than I do, right? But we're going to start off simple. Okay? Now, when we play audio, right? We're going to actually have an input here, right? And the input is we're going to say music type, right? And what it's going to be is music cue state, right? So if I say switch on that, right, you'll notice we've got normal, gateway, chase, and end screen, right? And that's our 4 data tables that we're going to pull from. Okay, now the original way I was going to do it, I would have to get all the row names, right? And then I'd have to check every single one to find out if it's either a normal, a gateway, a chase, or an end screen. Then I'd have to filter them out, build an array out of them, then get a random piece of music from that list, and then basically plug it in here, okay? Whereas if I just do a switch, I can just basically get our cue from each of the 4 different tables, right? And then basically I can set up this music queue, right? And that's going to now change from this array down to a single value, right? It's basically going to be a sound queue, right? So the other thing about this is I don't need to set up these arrays, right? So I'm just using the one piece of music at a time. I'm not having to load every single piece of music, right, before we begin, right? So what I can basically now do is trash that, right? And then I can go to music queue. Hi, pretty movie, how are you? And we can set that to a sound queue, right? And when we actually pick out our piece of music, we can set it to this. Okay? And then what we can basically do is plug that directly in there, right? And this is the part where we're actually going to start setting up our audio component as well, with how loud we play things, and that's going to be taken from our settings, right? So with that in mind, we can basically get a function. We can write a function and we can say get or return music queue. Okay. And then what we can do is we can say queue type, and that's the right thing. Then we can switch, and then we can pick from the relevant data table. Okay, so we just say get data table row name, yeah, we get that, and at that we shall go for a quick 2-minute break. So if you're enjoying the stream, hit like and subscribe. We're now onwards and upwards. We've got 500 subscribers today. We're heading for, I don't know what the next target would be. You guys decide in the chat what the next target should be, and we shall be right back. You can also check the description for Discord and with the channel. I'll be right back. Okay, we are back, and for a little football update, Liverpool were beaten 2-1 by Leeds United. Last minute goal, basically. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to decide between our 4 data tables which one, depending on whether it's normal, gateway, chase, or end screen. So this is going to be normal. This is going to be gateway. This is going to be chase. And this is going to be end screen. And for each of these, we're going to do the same thing, which is going to be length. This is going to be a lot of the same code, but because we're doing it in switch, it's not like we're going to have to do it 4 times or something like that. It's not in a loop or anything. It's just going to go straight through one of these filters. So we're cool with that. We can tidy this up later as well if we need to. And we interesting. Now we could set up some local variables here. Right, and we could say length, and that would be an integer. Right, and we could do a set on each of these. Right. This isn't going to make a heck of a lot of difference actually. Yeah, this is not going to make any difference whatsoever. Right, tell you what, forget that. We're going to do a bit of copying of code here, but as I said, it's on a switch, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Right, so basically we're going to do random in range. Right, and it's going to be that. And then from this, we're going to be getting a copy. And it's going to be that. I mean, at the end of the day, you could do this, but pass in a data table. I suppose you could. But the question is, does it actually really matter at this point? Does it make that much a difference? I don't think so. A little bit of copying code never hurt anybody. Right, as I said, we could store these in local variables like the data table. We could store and then get it to pass us back a number, and then that would pass us back a queue, right? That type of thing would probably end up being something I did later as a tidying things up and making it a bit more, I don't know what it would be, right? But I mean, this is only going to be happening every, oh, what, about a minute and a half or something? So it ain't going to be that much of a problem. Right, so we need to add an output, and we'll call it Q, and it's going to be a sound queue. Right, and then get data table row, right, and that's going to go in there. Then we'll duplicate that, and we'll duplicate these. Okay, and that row name is going to go in there. That row is going to go in there. This row is going to go in here. Okay, and so this one is normal, gateway, then chase, gateway, chase, and end screen. And once we've done that, we can do one more thing. We will set up, we'll say temp queue, and that is going to be a sound queue. We'll save that. And then basically we'll set it for each one here. And we're going to break that, and then the queue goes in there. Okay, and we basically do the same thing all the way down. And then these plug in here, and here, and then here. And we should now have a return node, and then these can all plug into this. We drag in our temp queue, and that goes in there. We shall add a reroute pin there, just so that if we put anything in between, we don't need to do all four. We can just move that reroute node or drag off it, and that's going to get our 4 things. And there we go. So that is going to get our different music depending on which state we are in at any particular time, right? So if we're in normal mode, it's going to get normal cues. If we're in chase mode, we're going to get chase cues, etc., etc. Okay. So we can save that, then we can come back to our event graph. We can delete this. And we're going to set this. And we're going to return the music cue. And this cue will be in here. And then, whoops, a daisy. We're setting that there. Okay. And do we have? I'm guessing we don't. Right, so we need one more thing here. That's a variable, and current music mode, and that's music queue state, and that's going to default to normal because we're not setting it anywhere yet, which is fine because we should start getting sound immediately. Now, the next thing we need to do is, for this volume multiplier, right, basically when we come into the game, hi Ryu Vry, test back to you. Right, I'll tell you what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to get our audio and we're going to set the volume multiplier. Right? And the volume multiplier we're going to go in stance, game instance, we're going to get the game instance, then we're going to say get audio settings, right, and then we're going to break that, then we're going to multiply our master by our music, and we're going to plug that into the volume multiplier of our audio component. Okay, now anytime we play an FX, we're going to multiply these two together to give us the output for that, right? But that is basically how we are going to do or basically set our base audio. Okay, so that's that done. So in theory, if I've done this properly, right, we should be able to add a breakpoint here. And if we start the game and actually change the settings, we should be able to adjust the volume. Now you guys probably won't hear it, but we can test it by hitting a breakpoint in there. So what I want to do is go to the main menu, right? So if we load from the main menu, we should be able to see what our settings are. Now, the thing is, I've set these up that basically the volume sliders are set from 0 to 1. Okay? So when we do one, if we set both sliders basically to maximum, right? So if I set maximum, this to max, and then music volume to max, right? When we play the game, it should give us a 1, right? Because 1 times 1 is 1. Okay? So there, it's hit our breakpoint, and we get 1. Okay? So a volume multiplier of 1 is basically max at max, right? So if we press play again, go to options and turn this down to like half and apply, then we close and press play, we should get 0.5, because 1 times 0.5 is 0.5. Okay? So there is our 0.500953. Okay? So that is working absolutely perfectly. So as you can see here, we're now actually using our options to control stuff in the game. Okay? And it's being passed through the game instance as well. So we're using the game instance, we're using the audio settings, multiplying master times music, the music volume, to give us our volume multiplier. Okay? So as I said, because you're doing, this is slightly different. This is for the music, right? And because the music is always playing through this audio, right, we can basically set this up here. And then we can basically set where we play sound effects, right? Like, for example, let's just stop this for now, right? If I go to a door, right? So if I go to, where is it? I'm pretty sure it's in here. If we go to here, and I'm not sure if it's BP door or the other one, I'm guessing it's the other one. Right. Now, open closed door. And this is on SM door. So we're actually calling an interface here. Now, I'm not too sure if this is the actual door I'm using, right? So what I'll do is make sure. So if I go to parts, and then I go to the door, that's static mesh door. Right, hang on a second here. Can't even remember how my own thing works. Okay, so this must be an interface. Open doors, closed door timeline. Right. So here is the rotation, and here is the play sound at location. Right, now what we should do here is, what we do is game instance. Do we have the controller? Hang on a second. Apparently we don't have the controller. Right. So on begin play, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to add volume multiplier. Right, and that's going to be a float. So basically when we set up the doors, we're going to get the game instance, right? Basically, this is only going to do this once, right? So we're going to say get game instance, then we're going to cast it to GI Chronicles, right? And then we're going to get audio settings, then we're going to break that, then we're going to set this, and then that only gets done once, right? So that's going to be master. No, it's not. It's going to be multiply float by float. It's going to be master times fx, and that's going to go in there. Then that is going to go in there. And now when we play the sound, we just drag in the volume multiplier and it goes in there. And it also goes in here. Right? Now, I don't think there's any other sound effects at the moment. Actually, there is. There is. And it's in the monsters, right, when they do the footsteps. So we'd actually have to do the same thing here as we're doing and getting the volume multiplier. Now, what we'd do in this case is actually set it up in the animation, right? That when we create the animation, we basically get the game instance again and basically do the same thing as we did here, right? And then set our volume multipliers. Right? So yeah, that gets the job done. So, is there anything that anybody wants to see, or questions, or anything like that? Hi Slors, how you doing, bud? Right, what we'll do is we'll tidy this up a bit while we're at it. I would really need to check if it actually brings us music back. That would be an idea. Right, so let's press play. Oh. Yeah, it doesn't like that. I don't know what these are. Oh yeah, I do. I'm going to just cut these. I don't think this is actually used. I don't think that actual, whatchamacallit, I don't think that blueprint's used. But unfortunately I opened it up so it starts taking it into account. Right? But what we're going to do is we're going to go to our options, we're going to turn our maximum volume. We're going to close that, press play, resume. We're going to enter. Oh yeah, we don't want to do that. Disable. Resume. we have no music. Okay. Well, the obvious thing. I know, no, that shouldn't be an issue actually. We can't do that. We can't do that. We need to say we need to set this volume first. And then say play audio. That's not really play audio, that's more like play music. Or start music. Right, and it's going to be set to normal. And drag that down. Play a game. Right, I'll tell you what I'll do, right? I'll turn on the desktop sound so that you guys can hear this. And then I'll let you see, I'll let you hear it when I turn the volume down, right? So this is at full volume. Right, we need to disable that. Right, so that's it playing at maximum volume, right? And now if we press play, go to options, we turn the music down, apply, close, play. Right, I can't hear sodding thing. Turn it up a bit. Right, hopefully that demonstrates that the volume's working. Okay, so we can actually set this up also for our various animation blueprints, right? So you'll notice here that there's volume multiplier, right? But what we really want to do is set this to be like foot step volume multiplier, right? Because what you got to remember is we might actually end up with something that's different here. That, let's say he does a scream, right? That we don't, or we want to use something different to this, right? We could pump up the volume either way, right, to scare the player, right? So I'm just setting this one to be for the footsteps for the moment. I might never change this, but that's my thinking here, and it's not going to be an integer, it's going to be a float, right? And then this value here is basically going to go in there, right? And we can basically do exactly the same things for all of... Yeah, the audio is working, yeah. I'm just setting it up on a couple of the animation blueprints now for the monsters. Right? And we want to set it up in here because we don't want it getting a reference to the instance all the time. Right? So basically, when we've set it up with the monster in mind, oops, what we want to do is get the actual blueprint, right? And you'll notice that we get the anim instance, right? So what we can do here is we can get game instance, right? And then audio, sorry, we have to cast this, cast to GI Chronicles. And now we get the audio settings, right? And now we break those and drag this over a bit. And now with our animation blueprint, we can say footsteps volume multiplier. And basically this is going to go over here a bit. And now, as I said, we don't need a reference all the time to our instance. All we need to do is get it once when we're setting up the animation blueprint, and then set the volume multiplier in the actual animation blueprint, and then it's got the value in there and it's just a float. So that's that. So we just multiply float by float, and we do fx times master, and that goes in there, and we just need to do that for each of the different things, right? found. Why is that? It could not be found in the daemon vamp. Back here. There we go. And that is that. So what we can actually do is we can actually just copy this code. Okay. We can minimize this. We can go to our Nosferatu. We can do that. We can add a variable, and it's foot steps volume multiplier, and that's going to be an integer, and it's going to be public, and we do that. And now we go into our character, we grab these, drag them back a bit, drag these, drag them out a bit, then we paste that, into there, then that scrolled just at the wrong moment. Right, and we'll drag all these back a bit, compile, and that's get game instance. We didn't do the cast to GI Chronicles. So we're going to have to drag this bit along a bit, which is fine. Drag that up. That goes there, that goes there. Compile. Then actually that goes in there. Right, sometimes it doesn't like references. Why is that not a float? Right, we're going to save that for now. We're going to go back to here. Float. Save. Back to here. That goes there. Compile. Right, so that's our Nosferatu done. And finally, our Sister of the Night. Right, we add a variable, foot, steps, volume, multiplier, that's going to be a float. And then I don't think we did this actually for Nosferatu, so we can do this in a minute. That goes in there. get, that goes in there. We can pop that down a bit, multiply that, go to our this one, drag this one in, plug that into our volume multiplier, drag that down, super smashing, save that. And what I want to do here is basically this. Copy that, minimize that, and go to our character, drag this back a bit, make a complete messy, dragging it back a bit. Drag that out a bit, just give ourselves plenty of space, paste that in, put that there, then I'm going to set that. That can go there. Set that to there, and that to there. Then join this one up to here, and we are good to go. So basically that is all the footsteps set to the volume in the options. Okay. And that's that all done. Basically all the footsteps are done for all the three monsters at the moment. We're basically now, when we do this, we'll be able to quickly set this up, because we'll just be able to copy all of this as long as the settings are there, and then that'll be great. Doors are done. We've not done the pickups yet. We need to do the pickups, but that's going to be fine as well. It's going to be pretty straightforward, right? Because the pickups, we don't have a base pickup. We have a master for each pickup. Ah, well, never mind. Doesn't really matter. We'll set that up anyway. And I think I'll call that for this afternoon. That's all the sound done. We got the door settings for the layout fixed. So that was all good. Our map is now over 200, I believe, pickups, because basically when I had the power out, sorry, the internet outage, I got on with a bit of it. So if we save that, right, hopefully this won't take long. Right, so once we get press play, we're actually on 201. Right, now there is a thing we need to fix. No, we don't, because this is right, because that's an end. Right, so that's actually spot on correct. Right, so our map, mini map is absolutely matching our actual layout. Okay, and we're up over 200 pickups, right, and that is the size of our map. So it's actually not that big. when you think about it, it's just kind of lots of... It's a maze. It's Pac-Man. It's 3D Pac-Man, right? So these have all got to sort of connect to each other and give you different ways of going to the different sections. So we've just got to do this bit up here. And as long as it's over about 300, let's say, pickups, and then I'm going to have to time it to find out how long it actually takes to run around the whole maze. Okay, and once we've worked that out, we can work out if that's long enough or not. And if that's the case, then we can always fill out that part and that part. But as you can see, if I do fill out all those parts, we're going to end up with about 800 pickups, which is going to end up pretty darn ridiculous, right? Now, there is a way around about that, because if you remember, every single section, I can actually turn these on and off, right? So I can turn some of them to none, right? So like every second one I could turn to none, and then that would halve the number of pickups, even though you would still have to run around the whole thing, right? But yeah. So yeah, we've made decent progress today. That's about as far as I thought I would get. In fact, I've done more than I thought I would do. Got the audio done, we've got all the monsters done. It's just the pickups really. The music's done. I just need to set up the music mode now so that it's actually correct, right? And yeah, much progress once again. So on that, if you've enjoyed the content, then hit like and subscribe, helps the channel, and check out the description. You can join Discord, and you can support the channel on Patreon. There's a link there for that, and my previous game on Steam as well. So thank you all for watching. I shall see you tonight at 8 PM Central. Bye bye for now.